Alright, let's get it. Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you guys that are new, welcome. My name is Leeana and I post new videos every single Sunday regarding different beauty tips, reviews, and overall beauty and styles. So if that is something that you guys are interested in watching more of, feel free to continue watching this video as well as subscribing to my channel so you can see all my videos just like this in the past. For today's video, by the title, you guys can tell we are making a video about all of the pros and cons to getting a tongue piercing. Now, I have had my tongue pierced for a while now. It has probably been about a year and a half now. And a lot of people always ask me about it when they see it and have different questions about how a tongue piercing works. So I figured, why not make a video on it? I wanted to discuss the pros and cons as well as some common misconceptions and myths that go on when it comes to a tongue piercing. This video is meant specifically more towards people if you guys are considering getting a tongue piercing. I hope that this gives you a little bit more information before you consider getting a tongue piercing done.
Look, I made a list and everything.
So without further ado, let's jump into the pros and cons. And of course, let's start on a more positive note. So I'm going to start by giving you guys the pros. For the first pro, it is that healing for this piercing is very, very quick, at least pain-wise speaking. I feel like I didn't word that very well, so let me explain. With a lot of piercings, especially the thicker that the cartilage is in different earrings, more towards your ears, sometimes it can still be pretty painful or still feel sore for a long time after it is pierced. However, with a tongue piercing, your tongue is so thick and full of muscle mainly, so the pain honestly really fades after like the first week. Granted, everybody's body is different, but overall, the intense pain that goes on after you get it pierced, it really fades over time. However, a lot of people think that because it doesn't hurt after the first few weeks, that it's all of a sudden already magically healed. That is not the case. Just because it doesn't hurt or it's not sore doesn't mean that it's not completely done healing. So you still need to keep it in there. You still need to clean it, but it just is a pro that it doesn't hurt that bad. Pro number 2 is that obviously it looks cool. It looks really nice. See? I get compliments on mine relatively whenever I show it to people. A lot of people like it. It's pretty relatively unique. I mean, there are a good chunk of people that have it, but it's also not extremely common. So a lot of people like it. You guys probably see it a lot because when I speak here on YouTube, I'm very expressive. So I open my mouth a lot so you can always see it. But it's a very nice piercing. It looks very flattering. But of course, what matters the most is that you like it the most, considering it's your body and you're getting it pierced. So make sure when you're getting it pierced, you get it done 100% for yourself. Pro number 3 is that it is very discreet. This piercing is very discreet in comparison to other piercings. If you're getting nose piercings or anything on your face, and sometimes on your ears too, that can tend to be one of the first things that people see on you. But a lot of times when it comes to tongue piercings, they are inside your mouth. So unless if you're someone like me that does YouTube videos like these and I'm always speaking really open with my mouth, it's not something that is going to be very out there and in your face. It is very discreet. You can hide it. It's very easy to hide. You can take it out obviously once it's healed, and it's very easy to put in and out. You can replace it with clear balls and then you really can't see the piercing at all. So it's very discreet. I really like it for that reason too. Pro number 4 is that it doesn't close very easily. So when I say that, once it's healed, you can take it out as needed when you need to change it, or if you just forget to put one back in for 24 hours, it's not going to close up very easily, which is interesting because you would think because your tongue is such a thick muscle that it would close up right away, but it actually really doesn't. Once it has healed properly, everybody's body is different, but at least for me and most other people that I've spoken to that have tongue piercings, they can leave it out for up to a couple days and still have no problem with putting a brand new tongue piercing back in there. So it takes quite a bit of time for the piercing to close back up, but when the tongue piercing is out, you honestly can't even see the hole because the tongue is so thick. So it's really cool. It doesn't leave a mark or anything. It's really easy to keep the hole open so you can replace it as needed. Pro number 5 is that the jewelry options for this piercing are through the roof. I think besides tongue piercings and belly button piercings, those two piercings are probably have the most variety with jewelries, and it is absolutely amazing. I literally just got a brand new pack from Spencer's a few days ago, and check these out. Aren't they cute? Like, the variety that they have for tongue piercings are just insane. They have literally any color, any type of texture that you like. They have so many different options. So depending on whatever you were looking for, whether you want just a classic steel bar or you want like a colorful silicone base, they have literally everything you can think of when it comes to color, size, style, everything. Obviously, make sure that it's healed, but once it's healed, you definitely have a very wide option of jewelries. And the last pro I want to give to you guys for this piercing, it kind of goes back to the beginning that I was saying where the healing is very quick. This pro is saying that the initial piercing itself is actually very unpainful. A lot of people think because the muscle is so thick here that it would hurt really bad getting it pierced. The thing is, the piercing itself is actually very unpainful. When I first rated it, I remember I rated the pain of getting it done as a 2 out of 10. It literally does not hurt really at all. You feel the smallest pinch in the world. It feels like you might have bit your tongue for a second, and that's it. The tongue is just so thick and it's just so easy. It slides straight through like butter. Like, it sounds really weird, but I'm telling you, like, the tongue is not very hard, so there's not as much pressure going through when you're putting it through the tongue. It's very loose, so when you're putting it through, it's really, really easy. And now for the cons. Most of these cons are not necessarily bad. They're just definitely things that you need to think about before you consider getting a tongue piercing. The one con is that it has a very, very specific healing process. In comparison to other piercings, most piercings, once you get them done, especially when you go properly to a tattoo shop or anybody that is a professional piercer, they normally give you the H2O sea salt solution or pretty much just any sea salt solution, and it's really easy just to spray or just clean with a Q-tip any new piercing that you get. When it comes to a tongue piercing, it is definitely a lot more difficult, just because it is an open wound in your mouth. So while you can still use the sea salt for your mouth, because you eat so much, you're definitely going to need to rinse out your mouth regularly. And if you use mouth rinse, it has to be non-alcoholic. There's just a lot more that goes into the healing process when it comes to cleaning a tongue piercing, just because there's so much more that gets into an open wound in your mouth versus on your ears. Con number 2 is kind of relating back to that first thing I said, which is that the first week of getting your piercing is definitely a freaking struggle. If you guys have been watching or looking at a bunch of other things, they do commonly say that the first 2 to 3 days are hell, and unfortunately that's not 100% a lie. For me, the first few days were definitely difficult. It's a struggle. And that's because, going back to what I was saying, you're eating all the time, but then once it's in your mouth, it's still sore. It's still adjusting to having an open wound in your mouth, and your tongue naturally swells up just a little bit. So because of that, it is very difficult to eat almost anything. Like, everything you have to place specifically in your mouth. You can only eat soft foods, nothing too hot, nothing too cold. Everything has to be just right, just perfect. And you have to continue rinsing it out all the time. For some people, it may be a little bit difficult to speak just because it's so sore in your mouth. So those first few days up to the first week is definitely very difficult to go through, but if you're willing to go through it, just tough it out, and I promise you it will turn out fine as long as you were taking care of it and cleaning it the proper way. Con number 3 is that it can chip your teeth and break your tooth. If you have heard this before and wondered if it was true, yes, it is true, and I'm not going to lie, I have done it once/twice. When I first started out with my piercing, once it heals, you start to get kind of used to it. The thing is, normally when you get pierced, you get it pierced with a steel bar. And so because of that, when you get comfortable, you start big balling and think,
oh, I can just eat whatever I want.
So you start eating, and when you're moving around your mouth so much and eating like you normally used to, sometimes if you're eating a big meal, you might bite onto the piercing on accident while you're eating your hamburger and you're like, You see that? It's very easy to chip a tooth possibly if you are not careful. Now typically it wouldn't be anything serious. I don't want to scare you guys. It wouldn't be a serious like breaking the whole tooth. However, it definitely can mess up your teeth. So you really need to be careful with that, but you also need to be aware of that. Con number 4, this is not really a con. This is just something very important. So I kind of put it under the cons list, but just take it very lightly. This piercing must be done. And let me repeat for you, must be done by a professional licensed piercer. Do not let your friend who says that she's been piercing for years do your tongue piercing. When it comes to most piercings, some people don't care and they just let anybody pierce their whatever they want to get pierced, because a lot of times you think, what's the worst thing that could happen? Infection. If you want to take the risk of an infection, okay, fine. However, with a tongue piercing, the reason why you really, and I cannot emphasize enough, why you need to go to a professional piercer is because your tongue, everybody's tongue, has a lot of veins, especially down here at the bottom. I want you guys to see it, so I'm just going to come up a little bit more. See that? And that? All of those veins down there and all throughout your tongue, they are what control your tongue movement, your speech, every single thing that happens with your tongue. If you go to anybody that says they can pierce a tongue and they hit one of those veins or nerves, that can cause very serious damage, permanent damage. And that is why I need you guys to understand you cannot go to anybody for this piercing. You need to go to a licensed professional that can look at your tongue and make sure they are placing it exactly where it needs to go so that it is not going straight through the middle of your tongue. It needs to go in an exact placement that most people cannot just see up top of their head. I cannot reiterate it enough. Please go to a professional piercer. It may cost more money and be more expensive, but in the long run, we are talking about your overall health and potential paralysis in your tongue. Yes, I'm being very serious. Con number 5. Again, this one is not even like a really bad con. It's just something that you need to think about. If you have a silicone type of based piercing, it can break as well as loosen up really easily. Because you are moving your mouth so much every time you speak or when you're eating food, you do a lot more with your mouth than you think about. And so because of that, sometimes if you don't screw the ball on tight enough, and if the quality is cheap, like I was saying, if it's like a plastic kind of base or really soft, it can break if you bite on it too hard, or the ball can just loosen up in your mouth and the piercing can fall out. It's not anything necessarily bad. I just mentioned that because if you guys change out your piercings a lot, you're definitely going to need to keep a lot handy with you, and also make sure that you're just tightening the balls and just overall learning to be just a little bit more careful with your mouth. The last con is that unfortunately not everybody can get this piercing. That is another reason why you need to go to a professional, because they can look at your tongue and they need to see how long it is and how close it is to this one vein going down the middle of your tongue. I don't remember what it's called, but some people have it where that part of their tongue is like extended towards the front, and so because of that they cannot pierce your tongue properly without potentially hitting something that could be very bad. So everybody's body is different, but if your tongue is shaped a certain way, unfortunately your tongue cannot be pierced. So this piercing is not for everybody, but if you are lucky enough to have a tongue that is the correct length and size and they can pierce it correctly, then you should be perfectly fine. So that was it for the pros and cons. The last thing I want to quickly go over are just a couple of common misconceptions and myths about tongue piercings. For myth number 1, this first one is that a lot of people with tongue piercings have speech impediments. That is not 100% true. There are maybe some people that may struggle with a very, very small slur or speech impediment. That is not the case for most people, and that goes back to what I was saying about the shape of your tongue. As long as it is pierced properly, typically you shouldn't have any problems with speech after it's healed. So if that is a concern that you have for getting a piercing, please don't let that be the reason that it stops you in any way. Myth number 2 is that because you get your tongue pierced, that means, oh, you're a freak. People say that tongue piercings enhance sexual pleasure, but just because somebody gets their tongue pierced does not mean that they are always getting it in a sexual way because they are trying to use it to enhance, or that means that they are promiscuous or more sexual than anybody else. That is a complete and utter lie, and I really, really hate that common misconception. Granted, a lot of times that only comes from really ignorant, dumb people. So sometimes you just gotta ignore it. I know for me, I got it just because I like it and it looks nice. I think it enhances my look and goes with my style because I love piercings. And there are some people that get it specifically for pleasure reasons. So if that is why you get it, then fine. That is fine. There is nothing wrong with the reason why you get your tongue piercing. However, do not assume that just because they get their tongue pierced, that means that they are more promiscuous or sexual or freaky than anybody else. And it's just wrong to assume things about people anyway. So just stop doing that. If you're one of those people, please stop. Common myth number 3 is that because you have a tongue piercing, it means that you are rebellious or not serious. You're just a dumb, wild person. You'd be surprised. A lot of people still kind of have that mentality. And again, those are just the closed-minded, ignorant people. If you have people like that in your life that think it's trashy or it's rebellious or it just means that you are someone that can't be taken seriously, I need you to push all those haters to the side because that is not true at all. Your body is your body and you can decide whatever you want to do to create it the way you would like in a nice, beautiful way. So if you want to wear makeup or get piercings or get tattoos or do whatever that you want, that does not mean that they are trashy or they can't be taken seriously. When it comes to how smart you are or anything, that is all of a matter of what is in here and not what's showing out here. For the closed-minded people that think that, you guys really need to get that crap out your head because it is 2020 and we live in a world now where everybody is free to express themselves. I consider myself as somebody that's fun and wild and likes to experiment with their looks, but when I talk about serious things, I expect to be taken seriously because I deserve that respect for me. And I really doubt that any of you guys are going to think any differently of me just because I have tattoos or any piercings. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope that this informed you guys and gave you guys just a little bit more information before you decide to get a tongue piercing. I have had mine, like I said, for over a year and a half and I absolutely love it. Of course, there are some people that it just didn't work out for, but in my case and most other people's cases, it works well. I think it's very nice and complimentary to my style, and if you think it'll look nice on you as well and complement your type of uniqueness, then go ahead and get it. Out of everything I said in the con list, I don't think any of it is something that would necessarily prevent you from getting a tongue piercing. It's just stuff that I wanted you to be aware of before you got it done. The best thing I can say, I guess, when it just comes to piercings in general is that if you are worried about getting a piercing, you just need to keep in mind of the healing process. There's definitely a lot more to it in order for it to heal properly. And if you feel like that's something you can do, then don't worry about it. However, if you know that you are not going to be able to take care of it every single day for the next few months, this probably might not be the piercing for you. Just because piercings in general always need attentive care because you have an open wound in your body and you want to make sure that you are eliminating all risks of infection by just keeping it clean and making sure that the puncture that was done smoothly and as properly as possible by a professional. I hope this gave you guys some extra information and maybe just shifted your mind about your thoughts on tongue piercings. Go ahead and comment down below anything about tongue piercings, whether something you didn't know about it or if you are debating if you should get one or not. And of course, if you like this video, what you're gonna do first is you're gonna like this video. And on this channel, we call them thumbs up instead of thumbs up because that's basic. And after you hit that thumbs up, you can hit the big red subscribe button so you guys can subscribe to my channel here at Rylee Beauty Styles. And then right after you hit the subscribe button, there is a little bell notification right next to it, so you guys can hit that bell so that you guys get notified every time I post new videos like this in the future. I hope this video gave you guys the information that you needed / wanted to hear about getting tongue piercings just in general. If you guys have any questions or comments or concerns that you would like to address to me specifically, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm going to give you guys all my socials down below. You guys know my Facebook and Instagram is all at Rylee Beauty Styles. I'm going to put it right here for you guys really quick. All things beauty, I do it all here. So thank you guys again for watching this video, and I will see you guys next week. All right, adios. Let's get it. Hey, get that crap out my mouth. Hey, you, unsubscriber that's watching my video but not subscribed. Why are you not subscribed? You can subscribe right up here. And then if you missed my other videos, I got my other videos right here.